Welcome to the only wrestling podcast that covers the WWE developmental system from its inception to modern day. From OVW to MCW, the HWA, Deep South, FCW, and much more. Hosted by Brian Asbury and Mortimer Blankenship. Now let's dive into what could have been, what should have been. Welcome to Developmentally Speaking.
Hey, before we get in this episode, can you do us a favor? Will you go ahead and subscribe to the channel?
Will you ring that notification bell?
And if you would, give this video a like. Well, enough of that mumbo jumbo. Let's get to the episode.
Let's talk developmentally speaking, glow up, and connecting through wrestling.
Hey everybody, I'm Morty.
And I'm Brian.
And on today's episode of Developmentally Speaking, we have Matt Walsh. Matt, how's it going?
It is going well. I am here from the Philadelphia suburbs, and I'm excited to talk about my experience with WWE.
Fantastic. So, other than the how's it going question, my first actual question is, what made you want to get into professional wrestling?
Oh man, well I think I was like, all right, the first time I watched was SummerSlam with Beefcake and Hogan, 89. I was born in 82. I guess that would make me 7 years old. Just always fascinated by it, and my whole life. And then, just fascinated by it, and then later I got into like working out because I wanted to look like the guys, Warrior and Triple H and all those guys. So, I just loved it. And then when it came back, when I was in high school, it was the Attitude Era. So it became like cool, you wanted to be like those guys as opposed to just being a fun story to watch or, athletic endeavor. During the Attitude Era, you actually wanted to be those guys, and guys are doing the hand gestures and the cross chopping and all that stuff. And that's, to be honest with you, what I think is missing from wrestling currently. That was when I was in high school, the Attitude Era, and that's when I started kind of lifting weights and building my physique up. And then, I went to college and, worked after that, kind of normal job. And then eventually met the Blue Meanie, and he sent me to a wrestling school in the Philadelphia area. So
Awesome. So before we get into where you actually trained, I heard you say that you think that there's some things lacking in the current product. So larger than life characters, is that what you would say?
100%. Yeah.
Because you don't see that anymore, and I would have to agree with you. But that's not necessarily what this podcast is about. So I'll continue on with the next question. So your training started in the Philadelphia area thanks to the Blue Meanie.
Kind of, yeah. So I was friends with guys on a radio show that was here. It's called the Kid Chris radio show. I think they're in Cincinnati now. And I met the Blue Meanie there, and I'd always wanted to wrestle, and I looked like a wrestler, but that was about it. I didn't have any other experience. Back then, there was no reality shows. There's hardly even media. There's no social media really. I think there was Facebook, but it wasn't as easily accessible to be a wrestler as it is now. So there was, he sent me to the Monster Factory, which is pretty well known, but it was not the Monster Factory. It was in between. It was in a transition. And Sharp was, I think, or Larry Sharp, right? I never even met him. He was in maybe in rehab or sick or something. It was really just like an open ring. It was kind of like a backyard situation because they were between owners. I know now it's really well run, and I know in the past it was really well run. But when I was there, it was literally like it was like a backyard. It was like a ring in like a storage locker, more or less. So
just living off of the name.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it was just guys doing moves basically. So what happened was, again, this is before the accessibility that there is today, and I found an email on WWE's corporate website for WWE developmental. I guess it was Steve Kern, and that I got in touch with, and I just said, hey, I thought I was old at the time because I was like 25. I was like, or I might have just turned 26, but I was like, listen, I'm trying to train to wrestle, but this place doesn't seem like it's legit. What should I do? And they're like, come down for a tryout. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready for all that. But, you know, I was just wondering what to do. And they're like, well, come down, we'll take a look at you. And, so that's what I did. And they signed me. They signed me essentially just because of the way I looked, which is fine. I think I have no problem with that, but it created some problems in my training.
I can see. So, for those that don't know, it's not like NXT was today. Back when they had like FCW or OVW, they had non-contracted guys and contracted guys, and then they would do like the open tryouts, and then they would sign people off of it.
And they signed me. I mean,
yeah,
it was right. It was FCW. If I didn't say that, yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of problems did it create?
Oh, when I got to FCW?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's sort of an issue right off the bat because Johnny Ace came into the tryout, was like, we're going to hire somebody with no experience. And I guess they had predetermined they're going to hire me based on my look. And, but I did have like some experience or whatever because I went to the Monster Factory. I basically just, I had taken moves, but I didn't even know how to run chain wrestling. I didn't know anything. Definitely didn't know the culture of wrestling, and which is very important. And there's no podcast back then and stuff like that to get the dirt and how where to sit and shake everyone's hand and all that stuff. So yeah. So anyway, so there's a little bit as soon as I got the contract because there's that miscommunication of So they told me they're like, all right, just you don't have any real training, so just say you don't have any training or whatever. So yeah, so I got there, and then people were just pissed off that they hired me based on my looks, and it wasn't just some of the guys were pissed off, and I understand why, but that is life. Any career you get into, somebody's going to have a family member or a friend or something like that who's going to get a job. They'll get an opportunity, but then do whatever with that opportunity. So anyway, so I was given the opportunity because of my look, and I kind of felt like it really wasn't in good faith that they never really wanted me to succeed because I don't think a lot of the training staff necessarily agreed with that because I hadn't paid my dues. So the issue with that is that I had attempted to pay my dues. So when I look back on the experience, it's like, okay, I mean, don't hire me if you like there's a miscommunication basically. It was Johnny and Vince, and I don't know if Bruce was there. I guess Bruce was there then, but I never heard his name. But they decided to hire me on the jet, and it sounded like, and Dusty would say, how the office liked me and nobody else liked me and stuff like that. And and Johnny called me personally when they hired me, said they had big things in mind for me and stuff like that. There seemed to be a disconnect between the office and the trainers, where the office wanted me to succeed, the trainers did not. So they kind of just sort of treated me like, can I curse here?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. They kind of treated me like shit, basically. So, which I wasn't prepared for, and it's like, again, there's no podcast, so I didn't know the culture. I'm an adult man. I'm 26 years old. I've been working for 4 years. I owned a house, and I had a dog, and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't prepared to go down there, leave my lucrative career to pursue my dream, and then be treated like a piece of shit.
Right. So. And you made it clear at the beginning of this part that you said you were looking for a place to train.
Correct.
So it was almost along the lines of, well, I didn't ask for this.
Right.
Why are they treating? Yeah. So
not only that, I pay for the tryout too. So it was kind of like a money grab, and then again, they didn't think that the office was going to want me. I think they were probably just trying to get people to go to this tryout. And then, so and then they told me not to say I was experience. So I act like, so there was like if you watch the FCW documentary, which was really good on the network or on Peacock or whatever. Like they talk about me not directly, but like there was this misconception that like I wasn't a wrestling fan. I had done fitness modeling, which I just honestly, I would get professional pictures and use them for wrestling or whatever. And then I was like a model, and I was like trying to get famous and all this stuff. Like I've loved wrestling, my
Mm-hmm.
whole life. And I wish that in hindsight, maybe I was like, I don't know. I mean, they had that idea in their mind that I was like there to like, become famous. I had a much more lucrative career with me here, which actually I pissed away because of the WWE experience. Uh, it won me out. Anyway, uh, I was there because I loved wrestling, but for whatever reason, they just didn't want to believe that. They wanted to believe that I was there to like be famous because of the way I look or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I needed to be trained. And I don't think it was a eventually I did get there. When I got there, it was kind of too late. But yeah, so that's how I got there, and that was the situation.
See,
Uh,
Laura, I don't know if they did it under the Jim Ross when he was over it, but I knew Laurinaitis would when they would have these open tryouts. He already had the guy picked,
Yeah,
before they even had him,
right.
and then they would take everybody out money. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and that was me, but
puts you in a bad spot from the start.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's miscommunication between
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's exactly what happened. So, but they did train me. I mean,
Yeah.
so your training started. I was trained by Dr. Tom, and I'm very proud of that. And I like Tom, and I think I eventually got Tom's respect because
Mm-hmm.
after I stayed on the Indies or tried to stay on the Indies. Uh, he is an incredible trainer, and like I tried, I kind of trained some other places too, and you know, uh, he is just. I mean, I'm admittedly like I'm more of an entertainer than more entertainment than sports.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he got through to me to where I could at least work a basic style, kind of like a John Cena type match, and understand, what's what and all that. So yeah, anyway, so I was trained by them, but it was like there was no kind of at least immediately kind of instruction on what I should be doing to get trained. It was just like, okay, you're here.
Yeah.
so go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
So were you down there when it wasn't even set up properly? Were you signed at that time when they were still getting the
No,
building,
no, I
or
think
was
it's
it?
like where they're talking about whether there was like a food
Mm-hmm.
on the other side. No, it was all set up and they had the TV and all that when I was there. I think they had just kind of gotten everything together when I was there. So it was like October of '08. So
Okay.
yeah,
What were you saying, Morty?
but it wasn't like NXT today or even like I went back to visit a few years later and like I guess like maybe 2011 or 2010,
Mm-hmm.
and there was like tons and tons of guys there. When I was there, I have the magazine here somewhere, but I think there's only like 30 people under contract or something like that. And there's like, maybe like 5 girls and like
Mm-hmm.
25. There wasn't a lot. And a lot of the names are, recognizable too. So, yeah, it was a very unique experience, but not what I would consider something like a corporate, type scenario, especially the way they treated me. But it was basically just a few rings and yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where the more you tell me the story, the more I'm trying to decipher whether or not they really brought you in as a person they wanted to bring up, or as someone that they wanted to make an example of.
so that's what. If you watch one of the reasons I asked if you guys were looking for dirt, one of the things I had to think about is like I've like went back and forth. Like I'm sorry, I don't really mean to. I don't want to take this into like a dark direction, but
Oh,
like
you're good.
I have a bunch of psychological issues because of the experience, and I have a lot of brain damage too from all the concussions that I got. And this was kind of before, because they just treated me like a fuck, like I was just like a body, like for the guys. A lot of the guys are on TV now, and move after move after move after move, and like they would like the guys get around the ring. One time, like Norman Smiley was like somebody came in, I think it was Santino, and the guys were just beating the hell out of me, all of them, like giving me the finishers. And I think like Santino kind of looked at him like what the hell's going on here? And Norman's like, oh, this is the best thing he's ever done here. Like, what I mean? It's just, I just got the shit kicked out of me. I lost. So I had like a neurological report done a few years later, and I had lost 51 IQ points. And then I have it here somewhere. I had like all these like different, I had PTSD from it. I dreamed about the thing for every night for 8 years. Like, all this stuff. So it's like, again, when you say make the example about me, if you watch the documentary, yeah, they talk about people that didn't deserve to be there and stuff like that, or didn't want, and it's ridiculous. It's like I gave up, like I don't want to bring. It's a family business that it's my dad's business, or was, and I gave all that up, and I couldn't get back into it. The partners wouldn't let me afterwards for this, and I literally destroyed my earning potential for the rest of my life because they wanted to, like you said, make an example out of me. So we talk about when I said a dark turn, it's like I've tried every avenue. I've like if there's some legal, if anybody deserves a settlement from WWE, it's me, because I lost millions and millions of dollars because of I'm basically I basically left brain dead and like just mentally unstable. So it totally was not something that should happen in a corporate environment. And I was surprised when they did that documentary, like you're talking about, how they said that they're like making examples of people. But it was ridiculous. And
that's a hard thing to hear, especially to be taken lightly.
I still, like, to this day, like, they had this, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like they if you weren't a half an hour early, so if you were 29 minutes early, you're considered late, and they would just kind of like beat the shit out of you. So I still, like, if I'm going somewhere, I could go to a doctor's appointment and be like, I don't know, 2 minutes late. I'm like, oh, I call up, oh, I'm gonna be there, it's like all this kind of crazy stuff. And I went to a show a few years ago with a friend of mine. I won't say anyone's name, so I keep in touch with, because a lot of people I do keep in touch with. I really like them a lot. I don't want to list that, because since this is going to be negative to some people, I'm not going to say it to people who I'm friends with or who I keep in touch with. But and like, yeah, I went to the show for the first time a few years ago. It was like, I felt like I was like, it was like I was in a trance. I felt like I was on like LSD or something. And like an out-of-body experience. And like, yeah, I talked to a friend of mine who's in the military, and he's like, yeah, that's what happens to me when I hear helicopter or whatever. So yeah, I got really messed up, and I would be okay, because I'm proud of myself for taking the chance in all this. And I would drive from I won't say because it's a local thing, but after work, and the Camden, and this, it's like I did all this stuff just trying my best for this experience. And if I felt like I was given a fair shot and they wanted me to succeed, then with that. But like you guys said, I feel like it was just like, since I got there, they never wanted me, and the guys in the office wanted me, and the guys there didn't want me, and there was a negative perception that just basically ruined my whole life.
I've had, my training was pretty old school, and you hear how there are people that are bump dummies, but the people that are bump dummies usually want that. If it got to the point where you didn't want it, they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. And the thing was, it was like, I thought it was so bad that I thought, because like I said, I got that phone call from all that. So I'm like, all right, they're treating me so bad, there must be a reason. They must be like, just maybe they'll test me and they're gonna, put me right on TV or whatever. And they did kind of bring me up to TV. Like I did the House Invasion with Triple H and Orton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Okay.
props for that. And like it was like shortly after I was there, where people were like, "Whoa, why is he going to TV already?" So I thought that because I was being treated so bad, that they must have plans. Uh, yeah, in terms, no, I definitely wasn't I was not offering. Obviously, if somebody out, but no, it was I was the crash test dummy, not offering. I did some other training after, like I trained with like the Dudley Boys and stuff like that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
familiar with different training methods and different eras of training, and it was for above and beyond what is and yeah, even like Ryback, I'll say his name because I can say positive stuff about him. He pulled me aside. He said, how messed up it was, and they're testing you and this and that. That's why I can't stand. Like, he's the one guy I see him getting some negative press, and he was like the most positive person. And there's a few. I shouldn't even say one name because there's other people that are really positive too. But I'm just gonna say him because I hear him getting some bad press, and I think he's an awesome guy, and was always treated me really really well. So when other people didn't. So
And those are the friendships, you keep people that had your back, and I hate that you had such a negative experience, and I think this interview is good because it shows a different
that
aspect of how it was and is.
that's why I asked you. And like I have cool stories from um, and stuff like that. And I still watch wrestling. I still love wrestling. And
Mm-hmm.
even with this, like we're talking about characters and stuff like that. I started Wyndham with Bray Wyatt. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was incredible. I like like when I say I don't like it now, like it's like I think his stuff is so good. I'm so into it, and I've been that way. So I'm really proud of him and some of the other guys. But yeah, but I have to call it like it is. I am
Mm-hmm.
like essentially I left there essentially like mentally and intellectually disabled because of it. So it's like, how can that happen in a Fortune 500 company? How can um, it's just, and then there's no remorse for it. They're like, yeah, just so yeah, they're like,
Just act like this is how it is.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was like they're like, yeah, you weren't ready for TV, so we'll just keep training and we'll bring you back. It never happened, but yeah. So that was my experience. Uh,
That's rough for sure.
even like I'll say this as a compliment. Uh, so Dusty Rhodes,
Mm-hmm.
he I seem to be the only person that had a negative experience with him. And I'm sure there's tons of people in life that don't like me, so I'll try to phrase it in a positive way. If there's only one person who didn't like you or whatever, that's a because everything I hear about is great. I learned a lot from him in the promo classes too; they were great. But yeah, he was like, it wasn't like a training thing. He didn't like me. He seemed to have a problem with me. Um, you know, anyway, I kind of got off there. The Cody Rhodes thing, the dashing Cody was
Mm-hmm.
my that I went through in detail with him. It was based off of Patrick Bateman, Psycho, and he
Mm-hmm.
had his more like myself than it is. I don't really know Cody. I only met him once, but I can just tell he's not a dark type guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the part where there's a disconnect, where he might be in a he's not like the way I laid it out. It was like, yeah, I'm like in the look and all that kind of stuff, but then he snaps, and then you take a dark turn, and that's where you get real aggressive in the ring. And they try to do that with him, but they had even like the American Psycho, like the face mask, like the promos and stuff like that for him, and they tried to do it. I know that happens in wrestling, but it just I don't know, left at bad taste. A lot
Yeah.
of stuff, but yes, that was um, that was one. Yeah.
So, what's happening in the world of Matt Walsh now?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't want to give too much personal information.
Mm-hmm.
I have a small business, and I'm okay, but I'm okay because of my family. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
okay because of myself. And again, I'm a college educated guy, and uh, if it wasn't for my family, I would not be okay after the WWE experience. So, yeah, my family set me up with a small business that I'm able to run here, and I have two little kids that are awesome, and I kind of like I do a lot of the care kids, and actually, when my daughter was born, ironically, my daughter was born the day Dusty died. So June 11th, 2015. So I was in the hospital when she was born. That text message. But that wasn't until I had kids where I could kind of put the wrestling. It'll never be. It'll always be in me. But there's more to life than it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is in terms of my business. I'm okay, but like I said, I'm okay, and I'm 40 years old. It's like I shouldn't be. It's not a good situation I'm in, and if there's ever somebody that deserved a payment from them, like it's me. The one good thing in life, that kind of like bright spot for me. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm not doing as well as I should because of WWE, and it is a direct correlation. And I have these psychological problems that have caused issues, and it's yeah. So that's what I'm up to now. I'm okay, but like I said, I'm just okay because of my family. I'm not. I shouldn't. So. Um, yeah, it's not really a happy ending if that. I mean, it is for me. I love my kids and blah blah blah, but in terms of the wrestling thing, and I think the podcast you guys doing, I've always thought, because I have a lot. I could sit here for hours with you guys and tell cool stories, wrestling
Mm-hmm.
stories, and if I'm just meeting somebody, that's what I do. I'll just tell them a story about seeing Triple H fall off a horse and all that kind of stuff. But like. Since I'm not like, I looked at who you guys have interviewed and I'm like the least known one, and I'm like, well, maybe I should do something different, give a different take on stuff. I think that's probably a little more interesting than just, oh yeah, I was there and I did Man in the Middle, and I wrestled Sheamus, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's probably what kind of generic, but I think that there should be some of the training stuff should be addressed from the past. And it's not always it's not as easy as just letting somebody go and thinking they can go back into their life.
Yeah.
Like so.
I hate that happened to you. You seem like a really nice guy. I appreciate you coming on. I hate that your experience wasn't what it should have been. My personal opinion, they set you up uh, from the get go. Not like intentionally, but like it did not give you a good foot to stand on starting out your career down there.
Yeah.
Well, I I don't know. I don't know if it was intentionally or not. I'll go out there and say it. It's. I don't know if I'm not going to say that it was Laurinaitis or someone high up, but I do believe that the trainers knew what they were doing in that situation.
Well, they did, but it wasn't appropriate,
Right.
and especially for a Fortune 500 company, and
Yep.
that's what I'm saying, because I think what you're saying is like the old school method of training. They didn't think that I had to pay my dues or whatever. Uh, but for one thing, I already attempted to pay my dues, but
Mm-hmm.
Right.
it's not. That was more of a thing in the territory system, I guess.
Yeah.
But really, I was screwed from the beginning, and if I didn't look the way I did, they wouldn't have done that to me. So
Right.
other people there that had less experience than me, and they let them go because I never held that against them. Like some of the guys who are second generation or whatever, I totally got it, because that's life, and they deserve the job. One of like I won't name his name, not to name drop, but one of my best friends, or one of my really good friends, is anyway his brother is one of the best baseball players of all time, and he was given, I think, a tryout or something because of a family connection.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the one that, he made it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't, on his own, I don't have a problem with somebody getting a job, not, the hard way. And I don't care if somebody slept in their car. That shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
But there should be a standard, especially when it is a Fortune 500 company and, you're messing with someone's life. You can't do that. You can't. And I get what you're saying too. And like in the territories, that was a different time, a different place. And if somebody's just trying to get into the business and all that, but you can't take somebody out of their life.
Right. I agree 100%. I think that the trainers that did that knew what they were doing when they did it, because they wanted to do that, because they were maybe they were jealous, or I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I meant by that. Was, it was 100%. They knew what they were doing when they were doing it.
Yeah.
And it's wrong that they knew what they were doing, because I was trained old school. Yeah, I've taken my fair of chops, I've taken my fair share of bumps, but my trainers knew my limits, and they would take me to that limit, but they wouldn't take me past it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, no, I mean, bumps, you're going to take your bumps, that's fine. But yeah, like you say, they take it past, there's a lot of psychological stuff too. Yeah, it just, it was a mess, basically. So, yeah.
well, I absolutely hate to hear that. Hopefully, people hear this and, get to, we have told a lot of developmental stories, and this is the first one that we've had where someone has came out and, actually put the negative side out there, because, it does exist, and hopefully it doesn't exist um, like that in the current product, but nobody really knows except for the people that are living it. And
yeah, so, and I hope that I kind of made the decision to go in a different direction with my experience. I hope that worked for you guys.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. And I think it's probably a little more interesting since I'm not like a household name, obviously. But if you guys ever want to do it again and just hear stories about Man in the Middle and the entrance at WrestleMania with Triple H and that kind of stuff, I could do that too, because I'm also used to you meet a kid and he wants to hear a cool story. I'm a good sport with that stuff too. So
absolutely
love talking about.
No, but I want to personally thank you for sharing your experience with us, because that is a definitely different than what we have heard, and it does need to be shared. And
I appreciate that you didn't sugarcoat it and you were open and honest about it, because a lot of people wouldn't be like that.
Yeah, and it's also kind of like, when I do first meet somebody, it is a lot, because it's like, it's impressive. Oh, you work for WWE or whatever. So it's a lot easier just to say, oh yeah, I was a pro wrestler. It was great, But I wanted to, I wanted to get the truth out there, and I thought maybe for you guys it'd be a little more fun to hear a different. No, maybe not fun. A little more interesting.
Yeah, a different take.
So I hope
I did.
It was worthwhile.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Thank you. We'll do it again sometime.
We can do a fun one too. So anytime. Enjoyed it, and thanks again.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, have a good one. Yeah.
Bye.
Hey everybody, it's Morty.
It's Brian.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Developmentally Speaking.
If you could, please click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to punch that bell icon so you can get notified whenever we go live or drop a new video every Monday. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next
Developmentally Speaking.